Okay, hello everybody. It is almost 1 o'clock. It's coming up there very quickly here. We are going to get going here in 1 second. Everything's ready to go. We will start promptly at 1, so we get about another minute. Let everybody join. All right, it is 1 o'clock and people are starting to join, so we're going to get started. As I mentioned before, if you're just joining us, if you go to rsu19.info and if you are in our district, you can click the attendance. Also, all the shows, people have been asking me, all the shows as far as beyond today will be recorded here. So if you go to rsu19.info, or if you're outside of our district, steampoweredlearning.org, and you'll see a link there of all the shows, what their topics are, a little description. Inside of that, it's actually a Google spreadsheet. All the different topics, each show notes for each episode will be there. So you can go there, click on that, click on the link, and pull it up. So everything will be recorded. If you miss something, it will all be there. And if you have questions beyond today, of course, just go to either one of those sites and you can just go to the comment field and add a question and we'll answer it. So I'm going to start, just like I do every time, we're going to start with the questions, kind of picking up where people have asked from last time. Happy Monday, everyone. We're kind of starting this week off and rolling, and we'll kind of pick up from last week what we did. So one of the questions that came up, which is a pretty good one, when we pushed out a video through Google Meet, is it possible to see if students have actually viewed it? Now, there's the two main components there is starting one is that if they're live, obviously if the student is on with you right now, the people right now that are joined us, that's one thing, that's one element, that's synchronous viewing, when we're all looking at it at the same time. You see that they're there or not. If they're not, if they want to record it, watch it later, that's different. So this recording that we'll have, people can just watch it as they feel like. There isn't a way right now built into video to be able to make sure that they've watched that. There's no kind of tracker like how many people have seen this. Even if, for example, you were uploaded to YouTube, it might tell you how many views you had, but it wouldn't tell you exactly who's watched this. There's a couple different ways you can deal with that, a couple different options. One option is you can embed that video into, there's another program called Edpuzzle. Edpuzzle, and that's a great service that you'd sign up for. But you basically embed videos, and you can have questions pop up throughout the video to say like, "What do you think of this? What about this?" or whatever. And that might be a way to track, who's actually seen it. The other option you can do is you can embed a Google video that you're recording here, like MP4 that's recorded in your Google Drive, and store it right in the top of a Google form. So as students are going to click on that link to go watch it, as it pulls up, you might have questions about the video itself and have the video there. So that doesn't tell you exactly how long they've watched it, or if they scrubbed ahead, if they fast forwarded, that kind of stuff. It won't tell you those details, but it'll tell you if they've watched it or not. So the other component of that, and a related question that came up was about recording kids, as far as some of the law goes, FERPA and that kind of stuff. Like, is it okay to have recordings with kids on them? The same laws, the same criteria would apply now as it did in your classroom. If you had a student whose parents had said they do not want their pictures or videos of their children on the internet, that same student would require here. So you might ask, well, how can they, join your class, or how can they learn from you if you're doing it all virtually? There's a couple different ways. If a parent said, again, most of our parents in our district, RSU19, it was by far a majority, like 90-something%, said it's fine for them to be on. So we're talking about a very, very few set of kids that weren't able to be online. And so for those students, they can do a couple things. One, they may not be able to join you live at all. They may not be able to join the live feed and just have to watch the recording of it. So they can watch it later, but they're never actually on it. So that would be an option. Another thought is if they're not on with you live, or if they can be on live but they can't show themselves, the parents don't want to see them, they can just turn their camera off. Right now, if I'm speaking, I could turn off my camera. Everyone can still hear me. I have my icon of myself, but they could replace that with anything they wanted. Their name would still pop up. Their email address would still pop up. So if that's an issue too, like I said, I would just have them watch their video afterward, postward. So that's the easy way to kind of deal with that. Another question came up, or this was actually a suggestion, could we put a tracker or a tracer on my mouse as I go through different tabs on the computer? And the answer is yes. Thank you very much for that suggestion. That's a great idea. I made my mouse bigger, so hopefully it'll be a little bit easier to join, to watch as it happens through. And that also leads me to another point here. I never had the expectation if somebody wanted to follow along, with this video live, we're trying to do it as I'm doing it. I know we go pretty fast. My thought with this is we would answer questions and then respond to show some things you can do, but you'd be able to watch that video later as you need. Kind of pause it or fast forward it or rewind it or whatever you need to. I hear that if you play this at half speed, my speaking is about normal speed for talking, so that's fine, whatever works for you. So if you watch the recording, all those recordings, as I mentioned, will be listed on that rshu19.info page or steampoweredlearning.org, and that will be all there. So you just go on, click play, and you can pause it anytime you need. Also, any of the links that I mentioned will be right there, so they should be able to just click on the link and pull that thing up. The other question from Karen was struggling to make email contact lists. Well, good news today, the topic we're going to talk about is setting up your Gmail, which also includes making contact lists. So we'll directly address that. That also addresses the idea of, how do I share a Hangout or a Meet with certain groups of students? What's the easiest way of doing that? And so this is one of the options to do that. Other questions, what's the suggestion for best way to create an attendance sheet? I can show you what we do, like the attendance sheet we have. I can show you how to do that. What I'll do is I will put that on as maybe this week as a topic specifically on Google Forms. That's where you would do that, and writing Google Forms /sheets. So one thing that people have been asking for me, so I started to do this on that same page, either at rshu19.info or steampoweredlearning.org. In the show notes, you'll see that today's topics, if you look at the first tab there, today's is setting up Gmail, but I started putting on the next day's topics, what they will be. So for example, tomorrow we're going to do Google Slides as a website. We kind of talked about this last week, but I've had enough email from interest from other teachers. I know the K4 teachers are going to be starting to do that. So we'll go through that entire process, what that would look like for them. What that looks like receiving a website, a Google Slide, how do I convert it, what do I do to it, what are some things we can do to it. So we're going to do that for tomorrow. And then on next day, on Wednesday, I had some requests from math teachers and also elementary school teachers. How do I record if I'm doing I want to do hand-drawn things, like, for example, let's say a math problem that you want to write on it. What are some options there? So we're going to talk about that kind of stuff, recording yourself for not just digital stuff, but analog things and getting it in there. So maybe I'll add, maybe for Thursday, we'll do Google Forms. People asking about questions about the, how to make attendance sheet. So just so everybody knows, and you can share this, I did move the time to 1 o'clock. I know I conflict with other things, but basically 1 o'clock really seemed to be the best time when I'm after our morning classes. I have classes in the morning that we're running. So we will stick with 1 to 2 from this point on, unless something changes, unless something drastic changes. But at this point, 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock in the afternoon is going to be our scheduled time for Tech PD. And again, if you miss one of these live, no big deal. You absolutely can watch it later, watch it recorded. So let's jump to our topic of the day. Today we are going to talk about setting up Gmail. So I'm going to do our screen share. Get this all situated here. Okay, hopefully that works for everybody. All right, so we're going to use that same kind of dummy account I've been using, Stuart Dent, as a made-up person, to show you what I would do, not only setting up Gmail to customizing after you've had it for a while, but also the idea of if you just set up your Gmail the first time, what are the things you can do to it? How do you work through that process? So I'm just on google.com. We click up here on the upper right on Gmail. I know that many of us live in our email. That's just kind of where we have most of our stuff. That's just how it works. So I want to make sure that that you kind of can set it up the way that you wanted to customize it, and everything, the time that you spend doing that, it actually saves you time later on. So I think that's worthwhile as well. So step number 1, they give you some things that pop up, like setting a signature and so forth. I'm just going to close this down because we're going to do these parts. So the very first thing I would do looking at this is saying, okay, this is kind of bland. I want to pretty up a little bit. We're going to do the theme. Now, the theme is just the looks of it. It doesn't really change anything on it, but it's worth to start there. So I'm going to click here on the little gear up in the upper right-hand corner. And I'm going to go to Themes. And this is simply cosmetic. This doesn't change anything that happens inside of it. You can pick any of these. These are kind of fun. There's even more. If I go to more images, there's all kinds of pretty pictures. Like most of you have probably done this before. I'm just going to choose a nice burgundy one. Match our school colors here. We'll save. Refresh. If it loads. Okay, so now we have our new theme. Again, you can change it anytime. It doesn't affect it. The next thing that I would do, I have no new mail, so I'm going to send myself a email from another account. And we'll see as it comes in. And one of the reasons why is because, again, as we get going here, you want to be able to use some real mail. And what are we going to do with that? How are we going to manage it? So the first thing, one of the questions I received pretty early on is, as we're doing more and more of these Google Classrooms, how do I manage all those notifications coming in from Google Classroom? There's a ton of them, right? So that can be, obviously an issue. And so one thing we're going to do here is if you click up on this gear up here, I'm going to go to Configure Inbox. And that's the one you want. And so what that does, is Inbox is ability to kind of have the computer self-sort it for you. And what I mean by that is it will actually go through and it will organize things for you by what it thinks. And you can teach it. So primary is the one you've had before, which is just like the inbox as you have to have. Social, I'm going to turn these on. So social means if you get a message from social network, let's say a Facebook message or a Twitter message or something like that. Promotions. These are things like if I signed up from a company, if I signed up for an existing email or received email from, I want to receive emails from Best Buy or from Amazon or whatever it is, they'll automatically go into this sections. They're not ones that I'm not going to call them spam. I signed up for them, but I don't really want them to mess up my primary inbox. So this way it kind of puts them in one place. I can go check if I want to, or I can just ignore them. Updates. Those are things like if you receive, if you shared a document or if somebody shared a document with you, you fill updates in there. Also, your Google Classroom confirmations and all that kind of stuff will be in updates. So that's super handy. And finally, forums. Forums are going to be things like if you are joining a listserv, let's say you're in a group, a Google group, maybe for your school or for somebody else, that's what forums will do. Now, you can turn any of these on or off if you want to. If you turn them off, then they'll all appear in your primary. But my recommendation for now is turn them all on, and you'll see why. So I'm going to click Save here. Let me also do a Google Classroom update. See what that looks like. Okay, so you notice across the top here, I now have primary, social, promotions, updates, and forums. So these will self-select. That means that if somebody notifies you, so for example, if I have a Google Classroom update, it will automatically put it in that tab for you. Now you might say, "Oh, I don't want that. I don't want it to be in the update tab. I want it to be in the primary tab." That's no problem. You can drag any of these into any of the tabs that you want, and it will ask you, do you want to keep it in that tab for good? So let's say you have a social, you want to receive updates from somebody on, Twitter or something, and you always want us to have that update appear in your primary. You would just drag it into the primary, and it would always be there from that point on. I'm going to do a comment here, just so you can see what it looks like with updates. All right. So the email itself, so that was the theme. Notice here, as I did that, so my other account made a comment on my Google Classroom, it automatically appeared in update. So instead of kind of messing up my primary inbox here, I can go over to updates. There it is. I can ignore them, or I can look at it, I can click on it. So my other account said hi, cool, I can reply right here. But I can kind of manage it in such a way that I don't have it all cluttering up my primary email list here, which is it can get really overwhelming. All right, so I'm going to click on this. Let's look at the email itself, okay? A couple things. I'm going to reply. So I'm going to reply, and I said, how are you? I'm fine. All right. Some of the details in when you're responding to somebody or when you're typing email in general. First up, down at the bottom here, these are your formats. So if I want I'm fine to be, bold and italicized and all that kind of stuff, this little A with a line underneath it. Click on that. I could change the font if I wanted to. I could make it bigger. Let's make it huge, bold, italicized, all that kind of stuff that you would do. You can center it. Also, if I wanted to go back to what it was before, I don't want any of that stuff. Sometimes you get things that are a little bit, you don't want them. I can click that T in the bottom right here, and that will go back to no formatting. Now, if you noticed, when I typed this in, this little thing came up automatically. Okay, this is a pretty new feature by Google. I think it's within the last, I don't know, a few months. Let's say 3 or 4 months. I'm not sure exactly. But the idea was called Smart Compose. So every once in a while, you'll see I typed in "I'm fine," and it automatically said, "Hey, I think you're going to want to do how are you?" And so I could just click Tab now, and it automatically typed that in there. So this Smart Compose, I could keep it if I like it, or I could turn it off if I don't. I'm going to click Got it and keep it. So as you type emails, certain phrases might pop up and say, "Oh, do you want to just click Tab?" and it will put those words in there. At some point, we will probably have the computers or the accounts will just be emailing each other, and we'll just be totally out of it. That would save a lot of time. I think if computers can just email each other and we don't have to worry about it. So Smart Compose. Let's keep going down here. Attachment, just like it sounds like. Now, one of the things that we talk about is like not getting attachments, not opening attachments. So unless you have a real need to, I probably wouldn't send an attachment. I might send as a Google document or Google Drive document. We'll get there in a second. If I want these words to be a link, click on link right here, and I could paste in a link. So if I want to go to rshu19.info or whatever it is. Now, this is the kind of thing that you want to be mindful of. If you receive an email from somebody that you're not sure who it is or whatever, but so you don't want to just click an email that you're not sure who it is from and have it go directly to some website that you don't know where it's going. So that's one thing to be mindful of. Also, little smiley thing, sure, we'll add a little happy face. Yep, smiling, good. Google Drive documents. So just like it sounds like, if you want to embed something, so if I want to embed this document that we've been working on right here, it will send it in the email. It will also ask you, if you do embed it, hey, that person isn't shared with it. Do you want to share it with them? And so it will give you, prompt you for that, which is super handy. An image, same idea. If I want to upload an image directly into here or use one of my Google Photos from my Google Photos already in there. So that's a good one. I'll insert that. Cool. So when we took, I think last week, we took a little be there. And finally, send and request money. Yes, you can actually email money to somebody else if they have a Gmail account as well. Now, at both ends, you have to have there's basically a service called Google Money that you have to enable, connect with a bank account, all that kind of stuff. But if it works, you add a debit card right here. You could send somebody money and they can receive it right through email. They don't take any money from it. If you send somebody $1, they'll receive $1. So it's kind of an interesting feature. I've actually tried it out with somebody just to see if it works, and it does, just like it sounds like. All right, that all looks great. If I want to add somebody else, so I'm also going to add Mr. Beach. I believe Mr. Beach was in here. So there's Mr. Beach here. So we add for 2 people. Now, I mentioned this last week, and a lot of people kind of oohed and ahed over it. So I'm going to bring it back again, just in case somebody didn't realize. When you email somebody directly, and if I want a carbon copy to somebody, I can do the CC right here, and that works fine. BCC is blind carbon copy. And what that means is that now he's going to receive it, but everyone else that I email to will not see his email address. And that's important because if I'm emailing a whole list of parents, I don't want to share their email address with everybody else. So that's one thing. So use the BCC or blind carbon copy rather than the carbon copy. The other component there is if you want to do multiples, we'll show you how to do that. If you want to do a whole group at once, we'll add as a group or a contact list. And finally, if they respond to that email, if it's blind carbon copy, they won't be able to, they won't respond to everybody. They won't reply all. They'll just reply to you. And that's also super handy. So that looks really good. That looks fine. Somebody else joining us here. Wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to send that email to, let's see, myself and here. Oops. Actually, so one here, it said I said that I want an attachment, but I didn't actually click the attachment. So I'm going to turn off attachments. I don't want an attachment now. Cancel out of that. Also, I want to share another kind of cool thing here. I could send it directly. I can also click this little pull down right beside it, and this is called Schedule Send. Well, what Schedule Send does is if I want to send this email, but I don't want to send it right this instant, maybe I want to send it, later this afternoon, or have it appear, tomorrow, or whatever it is. And so what Schedule Send does will do just that, is I can say, okay, I'm going to send tomorrow afternoon, and it won't be sent until then, or Monday morning, or I could pick a date and time. One thing that I wanted to do at the beginning of the year with the kids, and we did, some of my classes did this at the high school level, is basically write themselves a note for the first day of class, and it would appear to them in an email that would kind of almost like a message in a bottle. They would receive that email at the last day of class, and it would pop up and say, hey, what did you expect to get out of the class? And then revisit that at the end of the year and say, oh, an email popped up from myself, to my future self. I just thought it'd be kind of a fun activity looking back. All right, so I'm going to send this right now. Yep, click OK. So this just got sent. Now I click back up here in the upper left, I'll see there it is. One thing that this will do, when people ask about this, we'll do threading, meaning if somebody responds, all the different responses back and forth will be in the same thread. There is a way to turn that off if you don't want that, if that's something that you find annoying. I know some people really don't like it. Generally speaking, it's handy if you have a lot of different ways a lot of different emails. That seems to be the best way to do it. Let me just respond to it itself. You'll see how that will work. All right. Other things I can do in Gmail. Let's add that contact list. So I want to create a list of contacts with Kern in it. So there's a couple different ways I can do that. One, I can click up here, and I can go to, click on the grids here. Click on the waffle up in the upper right-hand corner, and I can go directly to contacts. Scroll down right here, contacts right there. Click on that. So contacts.google.com. That has a clean new look. Great, got it. All right, so I don't have any contacts in here yet. As you start emailing them, you'll see, so my email, so I don't actually have to type everything in again. I can add this account now as a contact. So here it is. I'm going to click the little plus here. I'm going to add it as a contact. There's my one contact. I can create an entirely new one if I want. So I can create a new contact. I can put, this is Joe Smith. And I can put, their email address and all the kind of details inside of here. Okay. I can also make a shared contact list. So if I grab one of my people right here, so I'm going to grab, actually, I'm going to add Mr. Beach as well, because we could have two people. So I'm going to add him as a contact as well. Go back to my contacts. So now I have two people. I'm going to check both of those. And this is what you might do by your students. Let's say you have one class full of students. You could check them all. What are my options here? One, this one I'm not going to do, but this says merge. If I have the same contact twice, and maybe it's a little bit different information from one to the other, and this happens a lot, because let's say somebody emails from two different email accounts, even though it's the same person, it might have two different pieces of information here. I can click that merge, and it will merge them into one contact. So that's helpful. But I'm actually going to add a label right here, this manage labels. Click on that. I'm going to create a label, and this one's called, I think we called the class Home Learning Class. So this is our class so far. I'm going to save that. And now if you notice over here on the left side, I have a new label here called Home Learning, and that has these people in it. Again, I could click on somebody and drag them out of it, or I could remove them, or I could edit this entire label right here. So in this case, a label, this is basically a contact list. So I'm going to refresh. And if I go back to my regular email here, let's refresh this page as well. I'll go back to my email. If I email out to that contact list, home learning class, whatever, it will go to all of them. So I'm going to receive a new email here. So if I go over to the left side here, I'm going to compose a new email. There we go. Oops, I did two of them. Okay, and this time I'm going to go to the home learning class. Now you notice right here, I just started to type it in, and these names all popped up. So I created that label. I added it, I called it home learning class. I'm going to click on it here, and they automatically popped up. And I could remove them. If I wanted to remove somebody, I could still delete them right here. I could edit the contact from here. I could add another person if I needed to, if there's somebody else that's not on this list. Again, it would work that same way. Okay, I'm going to exit that out. Now you notice I just sent an email back from this other account and it says, hi. Oh, okay, great. Click on that. And this is my thread. It goes from back and forth from each email. And again, I could jump to any of them. I could close them and so forth. Any which way I want to do that. Over on the left side here, I can make these emails go into filters or folders over here on the left side. So right now I just have starred, snooze, sent, drafts, and if it says less, you might just click more and there'll be other ones as we go forward. But let's say you want to create your own. So I can create new filter lists. I can also have it automatically filter for me. So if I want any email that comes in from a certain person, a certain account, or maybe a group of accounts, I can say, do this with it. So these are going to click, I'm going to click the three dots here and filter messages like these. This tool right here is probably my #1 time-saving tool. We get so many emails coming in and to help organize them. Yes, we can do it one by one, but this will help us organize them kind of all at once. So if I come in here to filter messages like these, click on that. So I want all the messages that come from this account. Now I could say maybe it's not from a person, maybe it's to somebody, or has a subject line, live tech PD or whatever I want to call it, or has certain words in it. This will automatically organize those and put those in for you. It doesn't remove them from your inbox. It just adds them to that folder on the left side. So it's super handy. So I want to say everything that comes from him, we're going to create a filter. Okay, what do I want to do with it? Well, maybe I want to just automatically delete it. Anything that comes in from that guy, just delete it, forget it. This is one way to kind of deal with spam. Now, Google does a really good job of kind of filtering out spam, so I don't get a lot of spam messages. But sometimes I'll get messages from like newsletters I signed up for, like, I don't want to deal with, I don't even want to deal with unsubscribe anymore. I'm just going to say if it comes from this account, delete it, don't worry about it. Or I could just say archive it, skip the inbox. That means you still have it, I didn't delete it, but it's archived so that you could search for it and it would pop up again. Maybe I want to apply a certain label. So I'm going to choose the label. So this is one's from Kern. I'm going to call this one Kern. Anything coming in from Kern, we're going to create a label, and it's going to go underneath that. So it's reply Kern, and it's always marked as important. Any email I get from my wife from her account, it's always marked as important. You can categorize. Do I also want to apply to the existing conversation? So the ones already been done, the ones that have already been. Yep, this looks like a great filter. Click Create Filter. And if I look over here on the left, there's now a label called Current. So anytime I get an email from that address, it will automatically put it in here. If I go in here, this is a subset. So you might have ones that are saying, let's say you're in a committee or a committee group and you want all the emails to go to one place, or you're working on a certain project. You might label that project and put them all in one place. Whatever it is, that's the easiest, best way to do that. Other labels that are kind of automatic, sent. Makes sense, right? If you've sent emails, it automatically puts them in that folder. Drafts. So these are an email right here that I didn't actually send. We'll call the subject test email. Okay, so this is an email that I'm not ready to send yet. I'm working on it. I'm still testing it out. I got all this information in here. If I just exit it out here, it will save in this draft label over on the left side here until I'm ready to either send it. I could send it right now, or I could say, you know what, I don't want to do it. I'm not going to send it now. I would click on the little checkbox in the front and discard the draft. It would actually delete it. But again, you can just save it there for good. Starred, I don't think I have any in starred right now. Nothing here. But if I go to my email, let's say there's an email list that I want to find really quickly. I could star it right here. And of course, most of our email boxes, our inboxes look like they have 50 things in them, or 100 things, or 1,000 things in them, right? So if I want to star certain ones and just looked at my starred, there's like a subset here. That's a really easy way to do that, and you can kind of subset those ones right directly. All right, some of the other email kind of help components that we want to kind of look at. Click over here on this, on the upper right, I'm going to click on this little gear here. Display density, that's kind of a weird one, but that basically how close do you want those email lists to be? And again, that's 100% your choice, 100% your discretion, what you think is works for you. Configure inbox, we already mentioned. Themes. We're now going to go up to settings. So see, these are some of the additional settings that you might want to have. All right, so general. Let's go and look through. So language, that all looks good. Undo send. So this is something that a lot of people ask, can I undo an email I sent out? If I change this, right now it says 5 seconds. I can change that to 30 seconds. That's the most it will do. And what that means is if I click submit or send, I have up to 30 seconds to say, oh, wait, undo. I didn't mean to send that. Even then, just understand what's actually happening. When I click send, it's actually not at that point sending it out until 30 seconds later. But it gives you that time. I know some systems, I know we used to talk about, we had First Class, actually had a undo send in it. And the reason why that worked in First Class, but it won't work in Gmail, is because First Class was all on one server, where Gmail is on multiple servers all over the place. But I can change that undo send right here to 30 seconds. Default behavior, I'll leave that. Enable hover action. Yep, these are all good stuff. You can, if you want to, change what your default, like what the size, like this right now, this is a sans serif text, about probably 11 font, but you could change it if you want to, by default, be a different size or color or font or whatever. All these will look good. Again, if you don't want those suggestions to pop up, maybe you don't want those, just check those off and they won't come on again. Keep scrolling down here. Your picture, if you want that to see kind of up in the upper right hand corner. I haven't done an icon yet. Maybe we'll do that at some point in one of these shows. Your signature. So this was from, I'm going to add a signature from Stuart Dent at RSU 19. So here's our, from this district, this is my signature in this case for this account. Again, maybe I want to make it a little bit fancier that. I could change the font. I'll choose Georgia. We'll make it a little bit bigger, maybe bold. Maybe I want to italicize this one. And if, for example, let's say I want RSU 19 to actually be a link. So I can click here, click on that link there. So we'll go to www.rsu19.org. Whoops. Okay, there. Okay, so that's my signature there. And again, I can change that at any point if I want to automatically. Keep scrolling down here. Again, vacation responder. I'm not going to worry about that right now, but you could if you want to turn that on. So, if you're on vacation, basically, they'll receive an email saying, oh, I'm not checking this, wait till I come back or whatever. This looks good. Click Save Changes. Load. Cool. Now, if I respond to this email now, so he said, what did Curran say back to me? Scroll down here. How are you? Oh, so I'm going to reply. We click reply. And great. All right. So we're kind of going back and forth here. This one, I'll schedule send to show you how that works. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to schedule send. So this is going to do tomorrow afternoon. It's going to send it. Give it a second here, and you'll notice there. So there it is. It's still there. It's just not going to actually be sent until tomorrow at 1. And I can click cancel send if I want to redo it. Also notice there's my my signature. Stuart Dent came out with my link and the whole thing, so it all worked. Great. All right. The next thing I'm going to share, up in the right corner here, this little gear. We talked about the first setting. We did general settings. We're not going to do all of them because they don't need necessarily all of them, but I'll show you some of the other ones. The next one, label. As we mentioned, these are the labels that are on there. You can, if you want to. If I don't want the starred one, I don't want that to appear over on the left side here. I can say, you know what, the snooze one. I don't want the snooze one. I'm going to hide that one. And so notice here, it went away over on the left side. So you can kind of adapt that to what you want for labels. And here's my one label I created so far. Again, I can hide or show that if I want. I could also show it on red. So the only time it will pop up is if somebody sent a new email that automatically goes there. And I can create new labels right from here. So super handy. Again, it's a little bit of work as you're doing it, but once it's set up, it's super useful. Inbox. These are those things, again, if you need to go back and say, you know what, I don't actually care about the social ones. I don't want them appearing at all. I could uncheck it here, and that would remove that tab. My recommendation would be is to start with these tabs all on, and as you go forward, you're like, I don't really like that one, and remove them afterwards. It's much easier to do it that way. Accounts. So if you needed to have one account go to another one. So for example, we have many placeholder accounts in our district for different purposes. Like, we might have a video one, or we might have a book one, or whatever it is. We can have that go, those emails that come into that one account go directly to another account, kind of get forwarded. So that's super helpful to be able to email back from another address if you need to. That actually brings us over here to forwarding. So I could say add a forwarding address. So if somebody emailed this address, it would actually forward to my address and kind of go back and forth if I want to use that. There's a number of different use cases for that, why you want to do that. Add-ons. So we didn't talk about Gmail add-ons the other day. We talked about Google extensions, apps, and add-ons for Google Docs, for Google Slides, for Google Sheets, and so forth. Gmail, just like everybody else, has their own add-ons. These are little things that add functionality that are not built into Gmail. So if I go to add-ons, if I click on Manage Add-ons, these are all kinds of, and you'll see that a bunch installed, all kinds of different things. The one that I'm going to install right here, it pops up here. Oh, I'm sorry. So these are all, I'm going to click over on the left side here, and I only want to look for ones that work with Gmail right here. So I can kind of sub-filter them down. And so there's Zoom, and there's Trello. There's all kinds of different ones. Mail track. So somebody asked about the other day, if I want to track to see if somebody else has opened my email, like I sent it to them, and do I want to know if they opened it or not, this will do that. I can attach that. But the one I'm going to show right now, I'm actually going to add on right here, is right here, DocHub. So we talked about this the other day. We talked about Cami. We talked about DocHub. So I'm going to click on that. Now, DocHub was a little program that allowed you to open PDFs and kind of edit or write over them, annotate them. And so by adding it to my, that means if somebody sent me a PDF right in Gmail, I could click on it and it would automatically pull up DocHub right directly in that file. So I won't have to go open it outside of it. It's right, kind of built right in. So this is the type of thing that's not functionality that's automatically built into Gmail, but by doing it this way, I now have built in DocHub into Gmail. So I go back, I'm going to refresh this page. You'll notice here DocHub will be here. I can also remove it if I don't like it. If I play with it for a little while, I don't really care if it didn't work as like I wanted it to. I could just remove it and off I go. And it's loading right here. So DocHub is installed. Now you notice here over on the right side, there's some other little icons. So I've got Google Calendar, Google Keep, Google Tasks, and then there's DocHub right here. We'll talk about these at a future show, but right now, DocHub is, if I want to click on it directly, I can go right to it. Or if I need to manage, if I wanted to remove it, I'd click back on Manage, and I'd click on DocHub and just say click Remove. Other option here, Chat. So Chat is like, we're kind of using over here on the left side. You'll notice that it looks kind of like right here, start a new chat. This, again, it's almost an embarrassment of riches where we have so many ways to connect with each other. So this chat works kind of like Google Hangouts. Well, some of you are like, hey, Kern, you said Hangouts is for video. Yes, it does both. It does chat, does text chat, it does images, it also does video. So all of these combined. So it's kind of built into right here. Advanced, I'm not going to worry about these right now. And offline. Again, if you want to install offline, now I'm using Firefox right now just because I'm using Chrome to stream this video you're watching. But if I wanted to install on Chrome, it would basically download your Gmail into your machine, and then when you go back online again, it would resync them as an option. And the last here is themes, which we've already done. We changed this background color. So click back up on Inbox. And that looks pretty good. I think we've pretty much covered most of Gmail as far as Gmail and contacts. I think contacts is the big one, as we mentioned, that people were interested in doing more with. When you go to your list here in contacts, you'll probably have a ton of lists. Like freely contacted. This will be full of all the different email people you've already connected with. And you can just add them to the labels as you want. So I think that's really helpful and really useful. So with that, we're going to jump back. Turn off our screen share here. Whoa, no, looks like an earthquake. It's for good news, I have figured out a way to be able to kind of turn off. I know we've been kind of jumping back and forth with the video. Some of the video looks kind of washed out. I have figured out a way to fix that. And so starting tomorrow, we will have a better version of the video, not only myself, but also with the actual screenshot as well. All right, so let's go look at the questions here. I want to make sure I don't miss any that people are asking. Oops, I'm in the wrong tab. It's right here. All right, so in the chat, one question was, well, have my emails allowed to the receivers? Way to do that. Yes, I wouldn't. You can't force them to have it read aloud. However, there are a number of read aloud extensions that will take any text on the web, any text on their browser, and then click play and they can read it out. The one that I would recommend is called Speak It. And so that's built right in as a Chrome extension. That means that anywhere they go, your email or to anywhere else, you could just click. They can just highlight the text, or they can just click on the email, click play, and they will hear it. Alternatively, if that's not going to work for them, if you actually want to record, send a recording of yourself, like an audio recording, they just hit play. What I would use is an app, is an online service called Twisted Wave. So Twisted, W-A-V-E. And what that does is that allows you to hit record. When you're done, hit stop. It's just an audio only, just audio component of it. And you can embed that or attach that in an email. Now you can also use the video, like we've been using Google Hangouts. You don't have to do video for them to listen to it. So you can do the video component of it and hit stop. The final thing is to go from speech to text. That is something that's built right directly into Docs. If you open up a Google Doc and click Tools and choose Voice Typing, that will take any voice, any audio that's collecting, and it will convert it to text right built into it. So if you have a student that wants to be able to basically speak and have it play and have it type for them and then send it to you. Now, it's not perfect, of course. You have to go make sure you go in and look at the different words. If it spelled the word wrong, or if it put the wrong word in there because it heard you wrong, you really want to make sure you go back and edit it. So it's not a replacement for that, but it's a helpful way to do that. All right. So somebody mentioned about Doc Hub. Sure. What I would start is going through the video from yesterday, and if that wasn't enough, I think, or yesterday or last Thursday or Friday, and we can do a follow-up one if we need to. As far as I'm not going to do the entire one right now, as far as starting from beginning to end, but either Docs Hub or Cami, as I mentioned, because the benefit of Cami now with the full version, because it's free, we didn't have that option before, so that might be a little bit more fully featured for you. Basically, what you're doing is you're taking a PDF and you're kind of writing on top of it. It is something we'll cover on Wednesday. Wednesday, we are going to be doing more, how do you basically do kind of quote-unquote writing for students, meaning like if you have a handwritten thing that you want to digitize to show them, either for math or really for whatever you want, we'll go through that process on Wednesday. I am going to try to be better about going forward, kind of pre-scheduling the topics we do as much as I can, probably about a week at a time. So we will do our best with that. All right, cool. So I do want to wrap up today with two things. One is kind of in the two things here. So first up, as weird as this is for a lot of people, the idea of you're at your house right now, you're watching a video, or you're streaming a video, or you're doing a lot of video conferencing, that kind of thing. It's a very different environment that a lot of people have been in before. And so I want to throw out there a couple suggestions. Two main things. One is to develop a schedule. And when I say that, I don't mean just have one in your head. I mean actually write down, at this time I will be here, at this time I'll be here, and so forth. I actually did that with my own boys and had them kind of work together. We came up with our own schedule connected together. And the reason why is that's so important. It's not just to get you up in the morning. That's great. But also throughout the day, when you're at home, you're always available, right? You're always could work. There's always something to do. When you go to work, you drive to school, you're at work, you come home, you're off work again. You kind of separate those two things as much as you can. I know we bring a lot of our work home, but you try to separate those if you can. The difference here is there's always something you can be doing. So you need to make sure that you schedule yourself time to stop. So for example, if my lunchtime with my boys is scheduled for 11:30, 12, that means when somebody pings me and says, hey, are you available from 11:30 to 12? Your response is, no, I'm booked then. You don't have to tell them why. You just have to say, I'm unavailable during that time. So you need to make sure that you schedule those times that you can kind of walk away from a little bit. Because that's just as crucial to doing this work as it is for anything. So I schedule time to go outside with my kids, or use that time to kind of take a walk or do something physical for a little bit. All those things that you kind of fit in during the day naturally, like you'd walk from class to class or whatever it was. But now you have to make sure that you schedule that time out. It may seem a little weird at first, but as you get rolling, you'll kind of adapt it and make it work for you. But I really do think that's worthwhile, kind of thinking forward for working at home and kind of best practices. To go along with that, another component of this is I did put in for the links this week this idea of the round to it. So we now have, even though it feels like we're super busy, we all actually will have time at home that we didn't probably have before. The time I know myself personally, just my commute time alone, just the time that I would take to drive from home to school and back, every day is a chunk of time that I now could dedicate to something else. And so I really think this is an opportunity to think about what other things could you do. And maybe it's a chance you get to take a class that you never could before. There are millions of resources online that you have access to. One really great service is called Udemy, U-D-E-M-Y. There are all kinds of great courses for you name it, all kinds of stuff, online courses that you could go sign up. They're very inexpensive. I think they're under $10 usually each, if they cost anything. And so you can sign up for a course and use that time, to take a course of something that you wanted to learn about that you never had a chance to before. So this is your round to it. You now have time to get around to something that you may have not had to before. So think of this as an opportunity to kind of work on something. I know my own son, one of them is using Duolingo to learn a language. Now he kind of played with it before, but now he's actually dedicating a time each day to make sure he uses that app or that web service to learn something new that he probably wouldn't have had time before. And then the last thing I'll leave with to kind of piggyback on that is this idea of learning through video. If you ask all of your students, any student, I don't care how young you talk about them, they have been learning through video for a while now. If you ask them, how did they play that video game? How did you know how to do that? This idea of them going on and watching a YouTube video to learn how to beat that level, whatever it is, watch a Minecraft video. Sometimes it's just entertainment, but sometimes it's them using those videos to teach themselves. And I think that going forward, that's just a place for us to be. If you think about it now, we have the opportunity to learn these technologies that we never had before. And yes, it's scary at first and it can be intimidating, but all this information, all these things, none of this is time wasted. All of it's time well spent. Every new thing that you learn going forward, you'll use from now on, right? You learn how to do a web call with somebody, or you learn how to, make a Google Classroom or do a PDF or whatever these things are. These are all, filling up your toolkit of things that you can reference to and use going forward. So I really think this is valuable time and something that we can learn from and keep going forward. So hopefully a little silver lining to our situation here that we're in. So I am going to jump ahead to tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to be looking at Google Slides as a website. And the reason why specifically is kind of reach out to those elementary teachers that, they, kind of now they're doing their own Google Slide for their own homepage and kind of look at tips and tricks that way. The other thing that we'll be doing is, like I said, I'll make sure I try to do a schedule for the entire week at a time going forward. We'll do our best that way. So with that, hopefully there are other questions coming up. Somebody asked, did you answer the question about Google Meeting, how to disable a link? Yes, so we mentioned this yesterday or Friday now, but I'll mention this again. Really important. If you're doing a video call, I don't care if you're using Zoom or Hangouts or anything, you as a teacher have to make sure you're the last person in the room. So I've had this situation a couple times happen with my own kids where the educator would leave, time's up, and they leave, and there would still be students in that call. So you need to make sure that you're it. Everybody else has signed out. Now, you as the host of it, you can kick them out. So if you need to remove them if it gets to the point. But they sign out, and then you leave, just like you would in a classroom. If I left the room, I would make sure I'm the last one in there. So that takes care of that issue. All right, with that, I'm going to wrap up for the day. We will pick up tomorrow at 1 o'clock. And tomorrow we are doing slides. And so we'll pick that up and run with it. Thank you all very much, and see you tomorrow.